First on BBC One.
Hello, my fellow explorers, and welcome to episode 34 of the History CV of Britain. Excuse me for trying not to laugh out loud. I've just seen a comment in the chat box from Gulag, who's suggesting that I'm a status quo fan. Those rumours are vicious lies. They're not true. There's no truth in them whatsoever. I can assure you of that. And blur out Trump's Oasis any day, in my opinion. There we go. Anyway, sorry about that. Okay. I'm afraid this week I have to start with some very sad news, joking aside. I received this news a couple of days ago. I'm afraid that we've lost John Neal, the author of this book, and somebody that I interviewed, I think it was 5 months ago now, in London. It's very sad. John, as I'm sure most of you know, John made an enormous contribution to ancient metrology over the last few decades. And he was also, not only did he have an enormous brain, he was a very nice chap. So I met him 5 months ago. We've talked online a few times via email. And at one point during our recording that took place in his favourite pub in London, my friend Hugh Evans went off to buy a round of drinks, and he said, so Paul, where are you from then? And I said, oh, well, I'm in so-and-so, but I grew up in Brentwood in Essex. And he said, Brentwood, I know it really well. I'm from Epping. And we proceeded to have a really memorable conversation from my point of view about places that we knew and where we grew up and stuff. And it was great. And he was a really nice guy. And it's very sad that he sadly passed away now. He had been ill for quite some time, but his brain was still absolutely revving to the last minute. So thank you, John, for your massive contribution to ancient metrology, ancient history. You can see there probably, hopefully, he signed my book while I was up in London, and he will be sorely missed. So rest in peace, John Neal. Okay. On to happier news. Next weekend, I'm off ski. I'm off to the Oxford Storytelling Festival, where I'll be meeting up with Millie Jackdaw, who's performing Merlin and the Pig. I'm hoping to get lots of footage of that, which I will obviously share with you in the near future. And I think I'm looking forward to it most of all because I'm going to be spending 3 days in Oxford camping out in the wild, and I can't wait. I've been stuck indoors now for 3 or 4 days with work commitments and also making lots of videos. And I miss the outside so much. So I'm really looking forward to getting away. It may affect next weekend's CV episode. I'm not sure yet. It doesn't actually finish the festival until Monday morning. And there's a big knees up on Sunday evening. I think Millie is playing some music and everyone's going to have a dance at the end. I'm not much of a dancer, I've got to be honest. One fact you might not know about me is that many years ago, I used to be in the Take That tribute band as Robbie Williams, believe it or not. And it lasted a few months until they got fed up with me trying to keep up with the other four, because they were all from stage school and were professional dancers. And I was only there because I looked a little bit like Robbie back in the day. and my sister sent off a letter to an advertisement in the stage newspaper, didn't tell me about it, and I got a phone call saying, do you want to come up and audition? Why am I telling you all this? I have no idea. But anyway, yeah, so I was in the Take That tribute band for about 6 months until I got kicked out because I couldn't dance. So getting back to next weekend's CV episode, the chances are I will probably be back. I don't have a guest, but I might be able to show you some footage of the storytelling festival and of Millie, which would be fantastic. Okay, moving on. A couple of actually one book to mention this week. One book that has arrived in the post yesterday, which I purchased from Megalithic, Architecture of Power by Robert Shaw. Now, this is a bit recent for me, given our last few episodes, barring Jack the Ripper. This is to do with Great Fire of London and other events that took place in and around that time. Plague, fire, famine, and war. Coincidence? Acts of God? Or the biblical scale revenge of a bitter king who saw himself and his executed father as gods on earth? So I've had a flick through it and it looks really, really good. And on one of the first few pages, I'm going to show you this because it really made me laugh, right? Is an illustration of William Shakespeare running away from autograph hunters because he couldn't sign his name. When I saw that, I was in stitches on the floor. It's brilliant. That's something I've covered. Well, not on this show, but I've talked about it on other videos in the past, and it's my firm belief, because of the incredible research done by Alexander War, somebody else who's sadly no longer with us, that the Shakespeare was actually Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, I believe, and he more or less proved it. So if you ever get a chance, not now, but if you ever get a chance, check out a video on YouTube by Alexander War called The Incalculable Genius of John Dee. It will blow your socks off. It's incredible. And in that video, the guy pretty much proves that de Vere was, at the very least, the main author of the Shakespeare plays and sonnets. Okay, couple of videos to mention quickly. I've half recorded part 2 of my Jack the Ripper series of videos with Randy Williams, the man who I believe has he solved it. I think if he hasn't solved it, he's right on over the target. So unfortunately, we had to stop because we had some incredible technical issues that if I tried to convey on this, you wouldn't believe me. It was really weird things happening while we were trying to record. And in the end, we had to bail out. But I'm going to try and do some more recording with him tomorrow. That'll be 4 videos on the trot in 4 days. But it's all good fun. And hopefully I'll have something to show you within a week or 2 on that front. So keep your eyes peeled. Right. One more video to mention that I'm 2/3 of the way through at the moment. But again, this video was incredible. And it was released by a friend to this channel, Melissa Campbell of the Mercurial Pathways YouTube channel, and featured a guy called Saturn Rooster, someone who is even more now on my radar after watching this, and Matt Apocalypse, who's been on the CV a few weeks ago. And it's called The Mystery of the Meter Found. So quite a big title, but when you watch it, what this guy has done is, it would seem to me, a layman, quite incredible. And it's made all the more kind of understandable for someone like myself by the fact that it's kind of most of his findings are based around the neck of a guitar. So, but honestly, when you get a chance, check that video out, because some of the revelations going on in that video are incredible. They're insane. So highly, highly, highly recommended. Okay, right. Let's just say a quick few hellos to people, see who we've got in the ideas room this evening. As always, we're joined by Merlin's boy. Good to see you, Merlin. and he's bigging up my playlist, my music playlist, which is on this channel, British Music. I've only just started that, really. I think there's about 10 videos on there, but you've got some Thomas Tallis. There might be some William Byrd, I think, some Henry Purcell, some Nick Drake, who's my favourite artist of all time, and other stuff. Anyway, it's very, very good, and I'm going to add to it as we go along. So if you like your music, then do please check it out. David J is with us. Good to see you, David. Hope you're well. As ever, we're joined by the incomparable Marshall Abrahams. Wonderful to see you, Marshall. Hope you're well. There's my mate Hugh Evans. Good to see you, Hugh. Richard Johnson is with us, or Gulag. Good to see you, Richard. And Petrushka Polyakov. What a great name. Good to see you, Petrushka. Thank you for joining me. There's that ridiculous comment from Richard Johnson. Status quo. My dad, oh dear, we are digressing this evening. My dad saw their second ever gig in Cornwall in about 1970, I think, and there were 14 people watching, he said. William Juby is with us. Good evening, William. And you're in New England. Wow, that's really cool. Stephen Lashbrook is with us. Good evening, Stephen. Lord Batty, getting used to that name now, seeing that name. Good to see you, Lord Batty. Looking through, we got anyone else here? Lots of conversations going on already. Lovely to see. Right, brilliant. Okay. Right, the moment of truth is here. So on Thursday, was it Thursday or Friday, Paul? I think it was Thursday evening, or was it? No, it was Friday evening. I think I recorded with a lady that some of you probably know, a lady called Monika Escobar, who has been an ardent supporter of the works and research of Alan Wilson and Brian Blackett over the last 2 or 3 decades. It was really nice to finally meet Monika and speak to her. She's a very nice lady. Had a really nice time. And she produced this 2-hour presentation. Now, I toyed with the idea of splitting it up into segments because it is long. But it's proved very difficult for a number of reasons. And one of them was that if I split it up, we'll lose the flow of what she's saying. So you're in for a long one tonight, I'm afraid. Now, I'll understand if some of you maybe, might drop out towards the end. You can always come back and watch the recorded or the replay on my channel at some point. But it's very, very good. And it's mainly focused on dating the Trojan War, which I think is officially dated at around something like 1100 BC. And that's based, I think, on calculations made by some ancient Greek scholars. And I think there's a lot of controversy about whether they were right or not. Wilson and Blackett, I think, have dated the Trojan War at 650 BC. You'll find out in a minute anyway. I think I'm right about that. And of course, our own Marshall has a revised date for the Trojan War. I think of, off the top of my head, I don't want to get this wrong because she's watching. Can I find the book? It was here yesterday and now it's gone. Anyway, I think of a very similar time to Wilson and Blackett. Not quite the same, but not far off either. So, okay. And we have Mona in the house. Good evening, Paul and friends. Hope you'll enjoy. I did the first time and I'm looking forward to watching it the second time. Okay, the moment of truth. Now, I've practiced this because this is on a file and I need to share it to screen. So do bear with me. It's worked today and then I tried it again and it didn't work for some reason. So fingers crossed. And before I forget, Monika has asked me to thank, where have I written it down? There it is. Moni would like to thank or give a special thank you to Philip Pearson, who was Alan Wilson's first supporter and was the manager of Alan's website. So big up to Philip Pearson, who might be watching. Okay, let's. So I'm going to be watching this with you, and I'm going to be in the chat box, so we can, if you've got questions, we can talk amongst ourselves in there while it's playing. Okay, let's see if I can pull this off. Drum roll, please. Okay, focus there. Right, share. So now it should be on screen, and I'm gonna try to see if I can play. Well, hello Moni, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to you at last. So, first of all, how are you?
Hello, Paul. I'm fine, thanks. I'm a bit nervous, excited, but I hope, yes, we will arrange everything well.
Brilliant. Okay, well,
how are you? How are you doing?
I'm very well, very excited and very nervous like you. So, so we'll see what happens.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, can I first of all ask you, Moni, how did you become interested in British ancient history?
Well, this is a very long story. That's my an introduction or biography, and I'm going to read it now because it's very much to say. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Brilliant. So I'll start with it now. So. I'm Moni or Monika from southern Germany, more precisely from Upper Swabia, the original homeland of the Latinic Celts. You know, there are Hallstatt Celts and Latinic Celts. Latin. I grew up near Lake Constance, to be precise, 30 kilometers north of it, and I still live there today. In ancient time, my region belonged to the Roman Empire and was separated from the Germanic Empire. In breezy weather, you can even see the Swiss and Austrian Alps. There is even local evidence from historians and book authors that proves that Romansh, or rather Welsh, was spoken in my region and that the local population was more or less Romanized, while Romans spoke the language and to some extent lived well alongside them until the Germanic invaders from the north of Europe arrived in the south, in my region. In the place where I grew up and live today, a village with about 2,900 inhabitants today and 200 inhabitants in 1866. A so-called Roman estate and a Roman cemetery was even excavated. I'm going to show you later in my presentation how it looks. Lovely. It's a large marble slab. The Latin inscription was found, as well as several household items such as carafes, a stool, and other items like coins, Roman coins. The marble tablet is of historical significance and is located in the Landesmuseum Stuttgart. John Griffiths, maybe you know him from Britain's Hidden History group and from my group, and he's the father of Adam Griffiths. Yeah. He did interviews with you too. John Griffiths, a good friend, attempted to translate the inscription using of this marble tablet, which was found in my village, using Welsh or Coelbren letters, and came to astonishingly different results from those generally accepted by academics. However, there is a video about it by John and Adam Griffiths on the Britain's Hidden History YouTube channel if you're interested. The tablet is dated somewhere between the 1st and 2nd century AD. In addition to the marble tablet, there are other finds with Etruscan Welsh runic inscriptions all over the place, especially in Switzerland. Switzerland was once Regia Prima, and my region was Regia Secunda. It was all Roman Empire. Not Germany yet. Germany was my region became Germany during, I guess, the 3rd or 4th century AD, when the Alemanni came and the Franks and the Langobards. Yeah, and now I'm talking about me a little bit. I first discovered Alan Wilson's work through the videos on Richard D. Hall's YouTube New members are welcome if they are interested in Wilson Blackett's work, their books, and other interesting material that deviates significantly from the mainstream. Another part of the group is my own research, which is mostly compatible with Wilson Blackett's work and also presents my personal expanded findings. One of my specialties is my blogs and videos, in which I try to summarize in a more understandable way for the members. Which I create by using good photo editing programs. For this, I am not using AI at all, but my longtime friend David Mosley, he's a member of BritishHistory channel 2. I use him as a model. He just dresses, like King Arthur, and I make graphics as editing pictures with him. Perhaps I should also mention that with Wilson Blackett's permission, I have published a book 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago for their work.
I didn't know you.
Yes, the book is look here behind me. Here's the book. As a moment.
Brilliant.
That's the hardcover. That's the hardcover. Moment. The expensive hardcover. It costs almost 60 euros, but it's not. I didn't make the price. It's the company that makes it, because the problem is I put too many colored pictures in it. And now you can see it. It's very much color in it, and so it's therefore it's expensive. So I will continue. The book is what did I do with the book? I have published a book of the work with some personal additions of my own to familiarize German-speaking audiences with the work, and Welsh history, which I believe is world history at some point. The book is available in German language only, and as hardcover, softcover, and ebook in international stores as print on demand. And it contains basic knowledge of Arthurian history based on the work of Wilson Blackett, including some of my own self-made Arthurian pictures. What might also be interesting for viewers is that a few years ago, a few members of my KingArthur group and I created a canvas with a poem on it, and including a self-made KingArthur picture. and our signatures for Ellen's birthday, Ellen Wilson's birthday. I mailed it to 2 friends who delivered the canvas directly to Ellen's house. We will see it later in the presentation. There is also a video about this on YouTube. If you like to see it, I have added the video with Ellen when he receives the canvas in the presentation. I have included it.
Lovely, lovely.
You're probably wondering if I've ever visited the British Isles. The answer is yes. I've been to England. I didn't know of Wales 10 or 20 years ago when I first visited Great Britain. I've been to England several times because I had a boyfriend there, you know, in Maidstone, in Kent. Do you know Maidstone?
Yes.
Yeah, because he was in the military in North Germany, and we somehow met in Germany, and became started a partnership, and I visited his family in England, but I decided to stay in Germany, so the partnership was finished, came to an end. So yes, I was in England in my younger years, and I've actually only been to Wales once in August 2019. We were vacationing, me and my family, we were vacationing around Cardiff, and 2 friends of England showed me the most interesting places. Unfortunately, I didn't get to visit Ellen in person. That's a long story. I can't tell it here on the screen. Maybe I tell you later in private.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't. It was a bit a problem, this meeting, because I didn't get to visit Ellen in person, because even though we drove up to Newcastle by car. My husband and the son, they stayed in the hotel in Cardiff. So yeah, we drove up to North Newcastle upon Tyne. So my colleague made an appointment. He's English, you know, he's from England. I think he lives near Bath. My colleague made an appointment with Baron Blackett. My colleague denied. My colleague denied us. Baron denied us access to Ellen's house. I watched everything from my friend's car across the parking lot. There is the Lidl parking lot, you know, just across the street. It wasn't a good day for me and my colleague. To this day, we have not learned the true reason for the refusal, why Baron did not welcome us. You know, even the police arrived. The police came in with this. Yeah.
Why did the police arrive?
Yeah, because my friend, he took, I don't know, a hammer, because the gate was locked, and he tried to open it, you know, and that's why Baron called obviously the police, and so yeah.
Right. Okay.
I didn't go to the gate because look, I thought, oh my God, the police. What do I tell them then? Because I mean, I'm a foreigner in England. I'm an alien, just a tourist. I was a bit scared, so I thought it's better to stay in the car. Yeah, it's a long story. You know, Ellen Wilson was a bit sad about this. He didn't even know what happened, in fact, and it's Baron Blackett who blocked it. He didn't let us in. Yeah.
That seems very strange, Mona, considering
Yes.
that you've been a very firm supporter of Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett's
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
It's very strange, if you ask me.
Everyone was allowed to visit Alan. Ross Broadstock, who else? I don't know. Even my colleague before I came, Baron Blackett knew my colleague personally. You know, he's from England. They knew each other. But problem is that maybe David, my colleague, helped together with Michael Obernicia. You know Obernicia?
I do. I know the name, yes.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to start selling, reproducing Alan's books and selling them. And maybe they, Baron and David and Michael became in trouble with each other. So because of, I don't know why, but it's a possibility that it had to do with the books, with the reproduction, and then Ross Broadstock came in between too, and yeah, it's maybe this, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It's very strange. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I continue. Now I'd like to conclude my introduction with a few important things about why I'm so interested in British history before we get to the actual topic, Troy.
Brilliant.
I'd like to take this opportunity to extend my warmest greetings to David Mosley, Dave Press, John and Adam Griffiths, Tim Lewis, David Rutherford, Steve Paul, Nigel Perry, Alon Rees, Tony Stokes, Marshall Abrahams, Richard Johnson. This is all Goluk.
Yes.
You did also videos with him.
That's
Yanto
right.
Jones.
Yes, you're correct. All Goluk. Yeah, Richard Johnson. I know him well.
Yanto Jones, Chess Gaten, Matthew Taylor, Diana Dean, and Daniel M. Bryant, and to all loyal members of the King Arthur group on Facebook. Now, basically, I've hardly ever felt drawn to the land what was once Germania, now Deutschland. From the Stuttgart region and further north, I don't know if you know Stuttgart.
Yes.
Yeah, I find no personal connection to my country at all. Therefore, I hate the north. I only love England. Britain, you know, Britain is everything to me. But the rest of the north, I don't like it. I don't know why, but I don't even want to make holidays in Sweden or Norway. It's so strange. I don't like it. I even don't like the North Germans. So no, they are so different to my people here in South Germany.
It's very interesting.
So therefore, political discussions about Poland or Nazi Germany or Bismarck and the German Empire, Deutsches Kaiserreich, don't interest me in the slightest. I've been interested in British and Roman history since childhood, including the entire Mediterranean region. This keen interest in British history is a part of me that has captivated me throughout my life. Two more pages, then I'm finished. I don't know why, as a little girl, I was interested in King Arthur and all these historical things. Sure, the media influence of all the film adaptations and also children's books certainly played a major part in this. Perhaps, however, it can be explained by a genetic connection maybe, or better said, the so-called genetic memory, maybe. At least I found a hint with considered confirmation of a genetic connection to the British Welsh with the evidence of my DNA results on my mother's side, mainly from the area of Mesopotamia and Cyprus, and those of my father from Western regions such as North Sicily, northeast Spain, even southeast Wales, England, and even the northeast coast of North America.
Wow.
So, however, but this is a haplogroup DNA. This goes very, very far back, thousands of years. I am not Turkish or Andalusian now today these days, but maybe some of my ancestors were at some time. Yeah. So, however, my parents and grandparents or other relatives are considered German in modern times. I know of nothing else. 2 of my aunts on my father's family side intermarried with men from Switzerland. There is no evidence that any kinship exists in the Middle East today, in modern times, of my family. Basically, these tests compare our DNA with that of people from different regions of the world to determine our ethnic ancestry and geographical origin. Of course, my region wasn't Upper Swabia before the Germanic invaders arrived from the north and occupied and conquered our land called Raetia Secunda, starting in the 3rd century AD. Thus, a gradual settlement by Alemanni and Suebi from the north took place, leading to the loss of larger areas and a reduction in Roman territory. This settlement was the result of raids that overwhelmed the Roman troop situation and led to the abandonment of the northern and western parts of the province, which were then taken over by the Alemanni. According to a Wikipedia entry, the predecessor province of Raetia was established in the early 1st century AD on territory conquered in 15 BC. Ross Broadstock and Alan Wilson. Ross Broadstock did a few videos about Raetia, and he knows that there are findings here with Etruscan or Puebloan inscriptions. Alan knew he's no longer alive, unfortunately, and Ross Broadstock did a few videos. And yeah, some of the subjugated peoples, they were called Vindelici by the Romans, others Reti. The province received its name from the Retians and its capital Augusta Vindelicorum from the Vindelici. Before Augusta Vindelicorum, however, Cambodunum was the capital of the province. In the 2nd third of the 3rd century, raids by the Germanic tribes from neighboring Germania Magna to the north into the province of Raetia increased dramatically. Due to a depleted troop situation, the Romans were no longer able to sustainably repress them. Even a temporary annexation to the Gallic Empire, which promised a resolute defense of the borders against the Germanic tribes, brought only temporary success. The northern Limes border was withdrawn south to the Danube River around 260. The western border was withdrawn from the Black Forest east to the Iller River. From Kempten, this is Campidanum in Latin, the new border ran along the Argen River, Lake Constance, and the High Rhine, Danube, Iller, Rhine, Limes. Present-day Upper Swabia, my region, and the Black Forest region were gradually and systematically evacuated by the Romans. The province of Raetia shrank dramatically. The land that was never de jure, but at least de facto abandoned by the Romans. The Black Forest and Upper Swabia were settled from the west and north by Alemanni tribes from North Germany from the 4th century onwards, who gradually spread eastwards across the Iller River. This is Munich, and pushed their settlement activity as far as the Lech River. This is in Austria. Yeah, this is all. This was my introduction. It was a bit long, but I want people to understand why I am, as a German or a Celt, am interested in British history. I mean, it's a bit unusual, you know. So I thought it was better to tell the people the whole story of mine.
Well, I'm glad you did, because that was fascinating. I've learned a few things just from that myself. So thank you, Mona.
Yes.
So shall I put on the presentation now?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll just share screen for a moment. Okay, that's on screen now.
Can we enlarge it a bit?
Or
otherwise I go to my patient, to my PowerPoint directly. Is that possible?
I think so. If you've got it on a different screen, you could try reading from that screen.
Oh.
I've got no way of enlarging it at this end.
Can you still see me?
I can see you, yes.
Okay, and I still see now my PowerPoint screen in full. So we can work like this? Can we go on like this?
I think so. Let's find out.
Yes, okay. Yes, okay. So let's begin. So you asked me to tell you something about the Trojan War, and if Wilson and Blackett were the first historians to produce an alternative date for the Trojan War, and what would I suggest are the best pieces of evidence to support their dating? Right? Yes. That was your question.
Yes.
Yeah. And then another question of yours was, do you think that Wilson Blackett's work will ever be entertained by Orthodox historians, and what is the legacy? Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's begin.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, how did I become interested in ancient British history? Because I recognize a cultural and genetic connection between my southern German, formerly Rhaetian region, the Etruscan region in Switzerland, in northern and central Italy, and Britain, Wales and Troy. Now, this is, look, this is where I live. Can you see?
Yes, I can see your cursor, yeah.
The Lake of Constance is here, yeah.
Right.
And here, I live, that's where I live, yeah. But Rhaetia was once bigger. This is not a good map, but I thought I will use it. This is Lake of Constance. This is where I live here. This is Rhaetia Secunda. This is Rhaetia Prima, Switzerland. Yeah, and this was also bigger, larger. The entire Switzerland was once Rhaetia Prima, and North Italy too, and all the way down to Italy, of course, and the Middle East and Britain and Gaul. So now, these days, my region is called Baden-Württemberg. Our capital is Stuttgart. Next file. Now we have, again, this is a better map. You see here, the Lake of Constance. Here is where I live. This is Germania here. The white field is Germania, the old Germania. And Gaul, northern Italy, and Austria here.
Yes.
Yeah, Noricum. So you see, we were not Germanic at all, you know. Next file. So this is the Signa Crispini daughter lived for 40 years. Proculus, her husband, duly commissioned his epitaph for her. This is the official translation of academics, and this marble slab, it's quite large. It's now in the museum, Landesmuseum Stuttgart. This was found in my village. So John Griffiths, the father of Adam Griffiths, did another translation, and it was very, very interesting. But sorry, I forgot to add his translation here to my presentation. But John and Adam, they made an extra video. You can watch it on YouTube. I think Britain's Hidden History channel once. Yeah, it's on the Britain's Hidden History channel, I think.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, Crispini and Proculus were Roman or British noblemen of a high rank. I mean, Proculus anyway, you know. And the Crispini dynasty is a dynasty. I mean, so, you know, the thing is, Brigantium at the Lake of Constance, 50 kilometers down from my region, from my village. There was Brigantium, the Briganti, who also migrated to Britain, almost certainly. These are the Briganti. They there was in Bregenz was a big an enormous Roman presence back in the 1st and 2nd century. Even Tiberius and Augustus, Tiberius and Drusus had a battle on the Lake of Constance against the Germanic tribes, even, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the question is, how did this marble tablet end up village, which had at that time may have had no historical or political significance? I have to say that this marble slab, they excavated it in the 1800s, I think. They also found a manor, a Roman manor, yeah, beautiful manor house, a Roman house, and a cemetery, a Roman cemetery, yeah. Okay, next file. Now this is very interesting. This is only about 4 kilometers as the crow flies from my village, very near. There is a land, how can I say, a farmland, which is called Welsh land, Welsh, you know?
Wow.
And there, where a manor, a Roman manor once stood, just 7 kilometers with car, where I live, about 4 kilometers as the crow flies. The Germanic Alemanni invaders from North Germany called them Celts. They called the Romansh, or the Roman-speaking Celts. You know, the Celts and the Romans were very close in my region. So it's not clear who the Latin Celts really were, because the Hallstatt Celts came first in Austria, and here's Lake of Constance region up to Stuttgart, and I think Rhine-Main region in Germany, Middle Germany, and later came Latinic Celts. So it's not clear who they were, the Latinic Celts. I mean, why were they called Welsh speakers? So it's strange, isn't it? Why would they call this farmland Welsh land? You know, this is a picture from modern day, from how can I say, where you pay taxes for your lands when you have land, you know. So you must register yourself.
Yeah.
So I made a screenshot. So it's a modern, a new map. Yeah, it's still there, Welsh land. So people of Roman and Romansh origin. Ross Broadstock did also a video about this, about Romansh. Yeah, it's and you know who found it out? A doctor from my village wrote a book. Here is an excerpt from it, and he found out that this was Welsh land here in my, not far from me, in the next village. And he says the Welsh were the Alemanni from the north, who were the Germanic tribes, called the Celts, the Gauls, and just people of Romansh or Roman heritage, you know. So
okay. Yeah.
Okay, next file. You know, maybe the people understand now why I feel so connected with British history, because I mean, you see the evidence. We have even land here, farmland, with Welsh connection, and even I think the language which was spoken here in ancient times was not Germanic. It must have been kind of Old Latin or Celtic or Welsh. I don't know. It's not really clear, even by in academic circles. It's not really clear, you know. So we're going to the next file. Here is another reference from my region, the so-called altar of Danuvius. This means Danube river god, whose runic inscription shows a similarity to inscriptions from the so-called Coelbren or Paleo-Hebrew. I asked John Griffiths yesterday if he would like to translate me some of my findings, and he said yes. So I'm curious what he's going to find out.
Yeah, definitely.
The stone, or rather, this was an altar, was traced from the Danube River north of the town of Mengen in 1877, ancient site province of Rhaetia Secunda. The inscription reads Aram Danuvio Queran us Iaetus ibens merito vovit de suo. You know, this means, academics say, this means the altar he erected to the Danube god Queranus. He fulfilled his vow joyfully as he deserved. Unfortunately, it is not possible to show the photo of the stone, of the original stone, due to image copyright restrictions.
Okay.
Yeah. Next, here is another finding from Switzerland. Here you can see once again typical Etruscan or British runes, inscriptions. This is all in German, so I'm not going to translate it now, but I made a note. A stunning piece of evidence takes us to Valais. We say in Germanic Wallis. This has to do with Wales too, Welsh, Valais, Switzerland, where the so-called Mur Hannibal wall was found. This one. It features Etruscan runic script, which is very ancient and corresponds to the Welsh-British Coelbren runes. The canton of Valais may have been settled by the British at the time of the migration from Troy to Italy and Britain. I mean, Alan Wilson talks a lot about this in his books. He knows the region of Switzerland and North Italy, and he said himself in his books that runes, Goldbrim runes were found all over Switzerland and North Italy. Wilson and Blackett confirmed similar finds throughout Switzerland, northern Italy, and partly also in my southern German region around Lake Constance, the Allgäu region, and northern Baden-Württemberg, Latin, first settlement region. The discoverer of the stone deciphered the writing as Poenino Joipkal. Yeah? But I am sure John Griffiths would translate it different. Yeah. So next file. This is a better image of the stone and the inscription found in Switzerland. This looks very Etruscan, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and here a drawing. And here, this is the Lake of Constance again. This is where I live. And this is Switzerland. And here in Lides, they found this stone. The Mur Dannibal refers to the remains of a fortified Roman military position. You know, they always say Roman, it's Roman, but it could have also been Welsh or but that's academia. They always use the term Roman or Celt. So
they have the advantage of complete ignorance.
Yes, yeah, obviously, yes. They are located, this town is located in the municipality of Lides in the Swiss canton of Valais. You know, even canton is the county in English, right?
Mm-hmm.
Canton, I know from Ellen that canton is also used, the word in Wales for county. So even the Swiss people use this Welsh word canton. And, there are many town names or river names in Switzerland which sound similar to Welsh names. The city names, the river names of Switzerland don't sound very different to our Germanic river or town names. Although we both in Switzerland and Germany and Austria, we speak German today. But this is only because the Germanic invaders, Alemanni, Franks, Langobards, Alans, Goths came, Vandals, and conquered our regions, South Germany and Switzerland and Austria. So, for example, the river Montafon, this is also a county in, I think this is in Austria. You know, Mont is a mountain, this is clear. And Afon means river in Welsh. So isn't this strange? And this is a river in Austria, you know, which has a Welsh name. So you can see there's a similarity. Now, next file. Now, this is just my KingArthur group here, and this is a private group, and it's locked. And this is the official KingArthur site in Facebook. And this is my YouTube channel.
Is that the one I'm a member of, Mona?
Here you are a member of, yes.
Yes, yeah, that one, yeah.
The group, yeah. You can also watch this. This is official for everyone to see, the official site. So we go on, we continue. This is my Patreon site, and this is my book on Thalia, for example, to purchase. The ebook is the cheapest for 19 euros. Now we come to the next file. This is my website, my personal website. Then now we come to this. This is the event when Alan Wilson, Baron Blackett got the canvas I told you before in my introduction. You see here are the signatures and a poem and a picture. This is St. Peter's Church, where King Arthur is said to be buried. Yes. In Wales. And this is David Mosley. You see on the picture, he's as King Arthur. Yes, and I made this. Yeah. And this is a book from Alan Wilson, Arthur, King of Glamorgan and Gwent. So, do you mind if I would?
Right, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think you can. I'm going to flick this on by a couple of minutes because unfortunately, this 2-minute video of Alan Wilson didn't work as far as the volume was concerned. So I'm going to flick it on slightly now. There we go. Let's see if I can move that back a little bit. We'll just go from there.
So now we come to today's main topic. Your question again was where Wilson and Blackett, the first historians to produce an alternative date for the Trojan War, and what would I suggest are the best pieces of evidence to support the dating? The Trojan War and Egyptian history cannot be separated. I learned this from Alan Wilson, Baron Blackett, when I read their files, their unpublished files, because I have some of their files and their books. Wilson Blackett explain why. I found some information for this presentation, some of which came from unpublished files by Alan Wilson and from Wilson and Blackett's book, After the Trojan War, 650. Some slides are supplemented with Wikipedia screenshots that clearly contradict Wilson's research. They serve solely as a contrast and for illustrative comparison. What's important to me is to correct the Frankish line of Antenor in connection with Trojan genealogy and the possible error Herodotus made in locating the Cimmerians north of the Black Sea instead of considering Kyme in Italy. Finally, I'll introduce the German publicist and researcher Dr. Heribert Illig, who agrees with the date of 600 BC for the Trojan War or slightly earlier in comparison with Alan's date of 650. Yeah. So let's begin. Now, this is from Google. I thought it's funny and interesting what they say. They say, no, Alan Wilson and Peter Blackett are not the only historians to propose a date of 650 BC for the Trojan War. Their work, the Trojan War of 650, was a controversial theory that was not widely accepted by the mainstream historical community. While they and others have proposed this date, the more commonly accepted view is that the Trojan War, while potentially rooted in some historical events, is largely a legendary tale originating from the late Bronze Age, 12th, 13th century BC. And we will see why this is not the case. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to read this all now. Now we continue. Now we start with with an excerpt from Wilson Blackett. This is from Unpublished Files, 1948. It is extraordinary, says Allen, that there are 3 ancient accounts of a king returning home after a war and being murdered in a palace harem conspiracy. The Great Harris Papyrus carries, this is a stone, carries an account of such a death, and the mortally wounded king appears as one who seems to match Agamemnon, Troy. Look, now the official main academics say Agamemnon was possibly Ramesses III or II, I think. We will later see why. Then there is the same story set down by Flavius Josephus in his account of Egyptian history, and again the king who was assassinated had been overseas with his brother and their armies. This was in Kyme in Anatolia, because Agamemnon conquered Kyme with together with the Spartans, by the way. And again, the king who was assassinated had been overseas with his brother and their armies, the Spartans, and fleets attacking a city in a long war, Troy, before returning to Egypt, where his murderous wife had been unfaithful with her lover, the king's own brother. Then finally, there is the Greek record of Agamemnon being mortally wounded in his own palace when he returned home from the siege of Troy. All 3 accounts fit and match, and the Flavius Josephus account makes it very plain that the dating of around 640 or later is intended. Next file. Now this is the papyrus. No, sorry, it was not a stone. It's a papyrus. This is what Allen talks about. Obviously, this is the king. Yeah, Ramesses. Look, great. This is the Great Harris Papyrus. Wilson and Blackett insists that it was Ramesses I, not Ramesses III, as publicly claimed. He was Agamemnon. Yeah. Then we go on. This is again about the papyrus. Official mainstream claims that it was Ramesses III. Yeah. Now, official definition via Google, Wikipedia, the Great Harris Papyrus says Egyptian document detailing the reign of Ramesses III. It features a historical section with Ramesses III's military campaigns and claims of subjugating enemies like the Sea Peoples, Edomites, and Libyans. Wait, Sea Peoples? Alan Wilson says in his 1984 files that they were the Spartans, the tribe of Dan. So I have the feeling that the mainstream doesn't even have the clue who the Sea Peoples were, you know.
Yeah.
So next file. There's another. This is what Allen says in his files. Definition of who the Sea Peoples truly were, also named as seafarers and Danans. And you know what, Paul? I believe that the Spartans could have become the Irish. What about that?
Really?
Maybe. I don't know. It's Ellen doesn't say it. It's from my fantasy, but maybe, I don't know, because tribe of Dan. Certainly, the tribe of Dan was not the tribe, the Danians, as Denmark, because Allen says it is not unreasonable, therefore, to postulate a migration and colonization of at least part of Greece by the tribe of Dan, who were seafarers. Nor is it unreasonable to postulate that the Danans of the Trojan War, who fought for Agamemnon, they did not fight for him, they fought against him. Were any other than these people of Dan and the ancestors of the Spartans. Dating of history by Old Greek historians is notoriously unsubstantiated and literally guessed, and it appears ever more likely that the Trojan War was fought around period 650. Because the name Dan or Danan, it must derive from the river Danube, because the Danube, I don't know where it actually starts, but it also flows through 50 kilometers down from my village, and all the way down to through Austria and the Balkans, and then up. I think it ends in Greece somewhere, or in Bulgaria or so. And this is because I think really that the term Danans, or the tribe of Dan, derives from the river Danube.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Next file. I made some silly funny cats here. This is again from Google, also from AI Google. The Great Harris, what do they say about the Great Harris Papyrus? They say it's created around 1152 BC instead of 600 BC, like Ellen claims. It does not mention or date a Trojan War, The Trojan War, a legendary conflict between the Greeks and the city of Troy, is generally dated by later Greek authors to the 12th or 13th century. Great Harris Papyrus does document events in Egypt during the time of Ramesses III, including conflicts with sea peoples. It does not reference the Trojan War specifically. So you see, it's, I don't know. I mean, one would say, why do you even look into Wikipedia or Google AI? But I think Google AI or Wikipedia does not differ very much from common academic sources.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
Yes. So they say it was a myth. It's a myth, and then we go to the next file. Here I got rather angry. You see it on the angry bees, because Google says no reputable historian dates the Trojan War to 650 BC. Yeah, you can read it yourself. Now we continue. Now, Ellen Wilson. I put some excerpts from his files here. I added some files, screenshots from his files here. Ellen Wilson, 1984. What has been known and evident to historians for generations has perhaps never been transmitted to archaeologists, in that virtually every major emperor and king had multiple names. And that's the crux of the so-called myth, where whether these multiple names were necessary for different regions of large kingdoms, or whether they were suited to different military, political, or religious functions, is again possibly still to be decided, says Ellen Wilson. It is important that these vital multiple identifications are made. It is important that ancient chronology is properly established without bitter and acrimonious disputes. Instead of the Western Turkey, half of the Chaldean Hittite Empire collapsing around 1200 BC, leaving the Eastern Syrian half of empire to survive in an unreal afterglow for 550 long years, the reverse is the case. That's the next file. Again, this is why not 1200 BC. Okay. Next file. Alan Wilson, Baron Blackett, from book Trojan War, 650 BC, page 369, Homer and Herodotus. I'm not going to read everything now. Maybe I let people read it themselves.
Yeah, we can always pause the screen.
Yeah, because it's again, no one believes that the Greeks were colonizing southern Italy. No, it's a bit important. Around 1200 BC, and no one believes that Mantua was founded earlier than 600 BC. This leaves us with Mopsos, the follower of Aeneas of Troy, around 630 to 600 BC. This is important as Mopsos had a sister. Yes, this is very important. Named Daphne, the daughter of Manto, and Daphne was the priestess of the temple of Delphi, and she and Mopsus were children of Manto, who is said to have been identical with the seer Tiresias. Daphne was famous for delivering oracles, and this caused her to be known as the Sibyl. Daphne's oracles were written down as the famous Sibyl's books that were later sold to Tarquin the Proud, one of the early kings of Rome. He was an Etruscan, around 550. These writings could not have been done before this same 630, 600 BC era. And the oracles and Daphne and Tarquin the Proud and the link to Mopsus all point to the same period. As Homer is reputed to have intended to visit Mantua in Italy, it seems to be inconceivable that he could have done this any earlier than 630 BC, as that city was not founded any earlier by Mopsus. This then firmly dates Homer and his Iliad and the Odyssey to the era after the Trojan War of 650 BC. The alternative is to throw out all the other ancient records. The repute was that Daphne's oracles were generally in verse, and Homer was not averse to introducing some of these verses oracles into his compositions. You know, there is an Aeneas, a film about Aeneas on German television. It's quite an old series. I found it on YouTube. And this is where Aeneas from Troy, when his migration went over from Troy to Italy after the Trojan War, he met a woman, a magician, and I think, and she showed him the underworld. And I think this is Cume in Italy, and I'll show you later.
Okay.
What is, and this is why I think Herodotus got it all wrong with the Cimmerians coming from north of Black Sea. I think this is totally nonsense. This is not true. I think the underworld the underworld leads us to Italy, to Cume, where the Apollo temple also is. It's a great historical monument. The Apollo monument, holy sacred monument, and underneath there is something like a cave. So we continue. Now we have some other Google AI critical claims that doesn't fit with Alan's claims, and I wrote this. I made an edition, a personal edition from me regarding how I identify the British Kimri. I reject Herodotus' theory of the Cimmerians from the Black Sea and the Asian steppe, and reject the associated biblical Gomer theory. Everything suggests that Homer is correct and Herodotus is incorrect. Aeneas of Troy arrived in Kyme, Italy on his Odyssey when Daphne, the Sibyl, and the priestess led and Aeneas into the underworld. There, a cave that still exists today, connected to a temple of Apollo and an archaeological park. Homer must have been referring to this cave, where he describes the Cimmerian land as a place of, quote, a land of mist and cloud. The imagery creates a sense of isolation and perpetual gloom. Quote, the sun never shines. That reinforces the idea of a land shrouded in darkness, contrasting with the sunlit world of the living. Quote, near the entrance to the kingdom of Hades. Oh, sorry. As you already know, I have serious doubts about the claim that the Kymri were the Cimmerians from the Black Sea, because the Cimmerians fit better to the Scythians from the Black Sea, because Herodotus was maybe mistaken and Homer was right, as he referred to the Kymri people who encountered the misty underworld, a cave in Italy, in connection with a Sibyllic magician during their migration from Troy. Alan Wilson mentions this often enough in his files, the topic of Kyme in Italy and Kyme in Anatolia, below Troy. You know, there are two. Kyme in Anatolia, which was occupied and conquered by Agamemnon, Ramses II, and Kyme in Italy. And this is, yeah. And now we continue. And this is where it is. This is Cumae or Kyme in Italy. Here it is, Cumae, near Napoli, in South Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And here is Kyme in Anatolia, south of Troy. Troy must be here somewhere. Yeah. You know. And here is again Kyme in Italy. And this is where the huge, the large area with the Apollo, temple of Apollo is. And beneath is the cave. The cave is here. Sorry. Here is a cave somewhere. And the entrance. Yeah, it is all well known. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So here you see a better picture of the entrance of the cave here.
Wow.
This is all, yeah, it exists. And I mean, academia themselves tell of an underworld place, and they speak of the entrance of the hell near Naples. It's at Campi Flegrei, the Phlegraean fields. They speak, it became a holy place, the Sibyl's lair. So they talk about this, but they don't associate it with the migration of Troy or people from Troy who came here, you know, there to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
They refused it for some reason. So I'm saying that, however, in the end, we cannot avoid the fact that it remains a mystery, because none of us or any modern historian has finally solved the Homer mystery of identifying the Cimmerians. It is almost possible. Perhaps it would have helped if Alan Wilson, Baron Blackett had been even more precise in their explanations who the Cimmerians or the Cymri exactly were, because for me it's not really clear who they were, you know. But I don't think they were those Cimmerians located in the Asian steppe north of Black Sea. You know, I think, I believe they founded their migration, founded Kyme in Italy, because Kyme in Anatolia was their first city, and then they founded Kyme in Italy. And here is the cave and the Apollo temple where the Sibyl Magican met Aeneas. So, yeah. Then the next file. Again, Alan Wilson, Baron Blackett book, Trojan War, page 400, Kyme in Italy and Kyme in Anatolia. And this is why I would write it so, Cimmerians. The most famous of this says Alan Wilson. The most famous of the colonies from Kyme was that of Kyme in Italy on the western promontory of a bay, where a second later colony foundation was called Neapolis New City, that we call Naples. Any brief study of the explosion of Greek colonization around the Black Sea, in the Levant, along the coast of Africa, in Sicily, in Italy, and even in far-off Spain at Cadiz, shows clearly that after the fall of Troy around 650 BC, the Greeks were competing with their rivals, the Phoenicians. The cities of Chalkis, Eretria, and Kyme founded Kyme in Italy. See? And in 10 years, Chalkis itself set up Region. This is now Regio in Italy, and 4 other cities. As the Greek populations multiplied, the surplus population was exported to found new colonies. As these colonies grew, they also sent out their excess population to found further linked colonies. The city of Kyme in Aiolis, says Alan, this is in Anatolia on the river Hermes in Asia Minor, is in fact just south of Troy. It is known that a daughter of King Agamemnon of Kyme married King Midas of Hittite Phrygia. A sea captain who sailed out of Kyme brought tin from the Tin Islands far to the west, and that is certainly Britain. This seafarer was known as Midagritus, which means approved of Midas. Yeah, next file. I mean, this goes on and on like this. Every file, you know, it's this is again, why not 1200 BC? All this takes no notice of the fact, says Alan, that Homer means a blind man, and it is very difficult to see how a blind man could be writing in 968 BC about a war that allegedly took place hundreds of years earlier in 1200 BC, as asserted by Paterculus, or around 884 BC, according to Herodotus, and 907 BC, according to the Arundelian marbles.
So nobody agrees on the official date.
Yeah, nobody, yeah. Nothing about Homer and his Iliad story of the Trojan War, allegedly fought around 334 or 1135 BC, and the subsequent epic voyages of Ulysses in the Odyssey makes any sense whatsoever. When the biblical great trading city of Tarshish is seen as Troy, and when the Trojan was correctly dated to around 650 or 636 BC, all the problems and anomalies disappear. The two stories of voyages of circumnavigation in the reigns of Necho II and his alias Rameses II, they were one and the same. Necho II and Rameses II, because academia says no, they were different people, and that's the crux, that's the problem, you know. They fall, he falls, Rameses or Necho II falls into place as the highly dramatized Odyssey and fact replaces fiction. Yeah, then the next file. This is again a stele, Esharadon stele. This is an excerpt from Alan Wilson's book, Trojan War. Reading Esharadon meant immediately that here or there was instantly a second long hieroglyphic text which had almost certainly been misdated by about 600 years. Just as Rameses II had emerged clearly as the biblical Necho II of the 26th dynasty and as the Ascencheres of Flavius Josephus and others, and was of the circa 610 to 570 BC period instead of the era around 1250 BC. So here was another clear historical confusion. Again, Esharadon's tale, another historical confusion. Rameses II was biblical Necho II, and as Ascencheres of Flavius Josephus, you see the dates. It demonstrates unavoidably there are duplications present in the general scenario. Ancient Egyptian history, and these are duplicated and replicated into areas at least 600 years apart by academia. That's the logical explanation. Now we come to the Franks casket. The Franks casket is also, it shows different scenes of biblical, how can I say, events, biblical events and Egyptian events, I think. One of the treasures, it has nothing to do with the Franks. One of the treasures in the British Museum is the Franks casket. This is a small casket that is decorated with carved panels that are made of wall bone that was rescued from near oblivion by Sir A.W. Franks. This is why it's called the Franks casket, because Mr. Frank bought it. He found it in Paris or in France, I think. Yeah. Mr. Frank got hold of the casket. It was torn to pieces. It came from a merchant in Paris and was considered Scandinavian, but it was not, says Alan Wilson. The shape of the runes clearly demonstrated its origin, given the knowledge available at the time. This monument to the past came to light in a bourgeois house in France, the market town of a canton in the Brion district of the Haute-Loire department. The girls of Arson had used it as a box for needles and cotton. So this is an excerpt from Alan Wilson's book. He talks about the Franks casket. Yeah, and I mean, shall I read it all, or I mean, what's important to me is that Alan clearly says that the Franks casket shows scenes or pictures from. It is clear that the two giant figures, for example, on the left on the casket represent Agamemnon and Menelaus attacking the city of Troy and such things. This is part of the British experience as the Britons descended from Troy under Protus. And
did Alan say how old the casket is?
No, I think he doesn't know. No, I didn't read such anything of a date.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. Wait. So next, now, no, we must go back because Ellen says here. Where is it? Yes, Ellen says, in the scene is the siege of Troy, then it is part of the hereditary British experience, especially that of ancient pre-Anglo-Saxon, pre-Danish and Scandinavian England, and also has significance for the Frankish people. Sorry, I say not Ellen, not who descended from Antenor of Troy, and I explain in the next file why I say no. It is not part of the hereditary experience of Denmark or Scandinavia, says Ellen. No? No, sorry. At this point, I unfortunately have to disagree with Alan Wilson, and I once told him this on the phone. I firmly believe that the Franks themselves invented their alleged origin from Troy for the purpose of highlighting their weakening unknown line, and in order to lend greater splendor and prestige to their political status in society and the church. Why do I say this? Because I read this book here. There is a book on this topic by the German author Reinhard Schmöckel, this book, in which he clearly and understandably exposes the fraudulent practices of the Franconian or Frankish and Merovingian dynasties regarding their origins and fictitious kinship with the Trojans and Antenor. I've read this book. I have it at home. This book is only available in German, unfortunately. However, it is only the title is called "The Ancestors of the Merovingians and their Frankish King Clovis." Alan Wilson responded to my criticism on the phone about the Franks and Troy by saying, "Yes, Moni, there is indeed something tricky about the Franks." I remember this very well, Paul, when you said to me this. But we didn't expand the conversation further. Interestingly, Owen Robert writes in his book, this is another writer, quote, "The Cymry, their origin, history, and international relations," published in 1891, his book, page 11, says that, quote, "that Antenor was descended from Veneti tribe, from Venice region, and they also could have been related to the Vindeliki tribe, who also lived here down my region, but more to the east, Austria, along Austria side. And so the Veneti and the Vindeliki are maybe the same. And they are also, I'll tell it later, the Veneti tribe who also were also associated with Gwynedd in Wales, northwest Wales, and Armorica, Bretagne in North France, present-day Brittany. Antenor founded the Italian province of Venice, actually. So he must have been from the Veneti tribe, not Frankish. And this is the entire Frank ancestral and king list from Alan Wilson. But Alan points out that he says in his book, quote, the point is that this ancestral list here, this list here from the Franks, not the Merovingians, has a start point at Troy that is very close to 650 BC. I agree with that, with Ellen. And nowhere near the fantasy date of 1200 BC. There can be no doubt that if the ancestral list of the kings of France is anywhere near accurate, then it can only be seen as stretching back to somewhere around 600 BC. Therefore, to date the Frankish ancestral figure of Antenor of Troy back to around 1200 BC is an impossibility. Once again, there is the inevitable and totally avoided question of the real date of the Trojan War. And Ellen also says, in truth, the ancestral is that the compiler's list does not appear to be totally reliable, but the point we're aiming at an original start date upon which to base the time of the birth of the nation coming out from the stricken lands of Troy. The claims is that Claudius the Frankish king, died in AD 445, and if this is near correct, then from a Trojan War of around 650 BC to AD 455 is 1095 years, and this is why he presented the Frank ancestral and king list in his book. This is the reason, I think. Now we continue. Next file. This is again from Ellen, from the book. Yes, the book, The Frank Connection again. The first Antenor is said by Homer to have been killed in the fighting around Troy, and therefore it was his son and later his grandson who would have killed the surviving Franks across Europe and finally into northern Germany and Belgium before they entered northern Gaul, now France. Ellen does not claim that the Franks were related to the Trojans. He merely demonstrates that based on this Frankish king list here, a dating of the Trojan War around 650 is correct and accurate. Personally, I suspect that these were the Scythians, the Franks, who attacked the Assyrians around 680 to 609 BC. The Franks are reputed to be descended from the Scythian Sarmatian line, maybe Iranian too. Okay, next file. Again about Antenor, it is therefore very likely that Antenor was a respected Trojan counselor and advisor to King Priam of Troy. Antenor was presumably the son of Alcestis and Cleomestra and a descendant of the Hellenes and Argonauts, who can certainly be classified as Veneti. In Greek mythology, Antenor was a son of the Dardanian noble Alcestis and Cleomestra. Dardania, the Trojan Brutus, his great-great-grandfather, I think. Dardanus, the origins in Dardania too. He was of the wisest of the Trojan elders and counselors. But back to the casket found in France. One might suspect that it fell into the hands of the Franks, or that Antenor brought the casket to Venice and later found its way to France. Ellen does not say clearly how it found its its place to France, so it's unclear why it ended up in France. This is the end of the Frank's casket. The Frank's casket shows scenes on all its panels which relate to the British historical experience and heritage, says Ellen. The siege of Troy and the destruction of Troy is a British heritage and no Anglo-Saxon or Northern European. The scene of the twin babies Romulus and Remus being sucked by wolves and who became the founders of Rome is also a British Trojan-related hereditary experience. Christianity arrived in Britain AD 37 AD, the last year of Tiberius, and Britain was the first Christian state. Therefore, the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus also relates to the national British experience and deniedly not to any Anglo-Saxon nor Scandinavian or one Danish historical experiences, says Ellen. Yeah. Next file. Yeah, this is what Google says about the Franks. Even Google says that it is unlikely that the Franks had precise knowledge of the date of the Trojan War. The Franks rose to prominence in the late Roman Empire and the early medieval period, long after the supposed time of the Trojan War. See, so the Franks would have encountered the story as a legendary narrative rather than a precise historical event. So it's very clear that they were not descended from the Trojans. Now I found another AI statement about the Trojan War book by Wilson Beckett. It says this book proposes that the Trojan War, as it's generally understood, is a misinterpretation of his events, and that the sack of Troy occurred in 650 BC, not the late Bronze Age traditionally believed. So we see it's also it's coming through the internet, I think. Meanwhile, so you see here are the books from Wilson and Blackett about the Trojan War. So I think truth is coming out. At least. Yes. Next file. Immanuel Velikovsky. This is again by Google AI. He argued that the Trojan War was a real event and it took place centuries later than the conventionally accepted dates, and that it was the result of the Earth's encounters with the also believed that the myths and legends associated with the war were not simply folklore but rather accounts of real historical events. But Google AI says that Velikovsky, his books Worlds in Collision, posits that the Trojan War, along with other events in ancient history, were caused by the Earth's interactions with Venus, leading to catastrophic events like earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. He believed that these events were real, were recorded in myths and legends across different cultures, including the Trojan War, which he interpreted as a real event, even driven by these planetary disturbances. Yeah. And I mean, Ellen talks about these catastrophic events, and he says that it's the Isle of Terra in the Mediterranean. I think Terra is not too far apart from Egypt and Troy and Anatolia. Now, next file. Now, look, this is Charlemagne, the Frankish king. This is added by me. What do we know about Troy? An interview with German publisher Dr. Heribert Illig, who has become known as chronology critic in Germany. Illig was born in 1947 in Wohenstrauß, Bavaria. He was active in an association dedicated to Immanuel Velikovsky Catastrophism and Historical Revisionism, the Society of the Reconstruction of Human and Natural History. From 1989 to 1994, he acted as editor of the journal Prehistory, Proto-History Present. Since 1995, he has worked as a publisher and author under his own publishing company, Mantis Verlag, and publishing his own journal. For example, Zeitensprünge, Leaps in Time in English. Outside of his publications related to reset chronology, he has edited his works of Egon Friedel. Illig claims that Charlemagne did not exist. Illig claims include that there is a scarcity of archaeological evidence that can be reliably dated to the period AD 614 to 911. He claims that the dating methods used for such recent periods, radiometry and dendrochronology, are inaccurate. He claims that medieval historians rely too much on written sources. He claims that the presence of Romanesque architecture in 10th century Western Europe suggests that his Roman era was as long ago as conventionally thought. He claims that at the time of the introduction of the Gregorian calendar in AD 1582, there should have been a discrepancy of 13 days between the Julian calendar and the real calendar, when the astronomers and the mathematicians working for Pope Gregory XIII had found that the civil calendar needed to be adjusted by only 10 days. From this, Mr. Illig concludes that the AD era had counted roughly 3 centuries, which never existed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I've come across that theory before.
There are a few English-speaking YouTubers who made videos about Mr. Illig, about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then here again, we found this picture in Google, phantom time conspiracy theory. Phantom time
historical conspiracy theory. Wow. Yeah. They're using all their favourite words there, aren't they?
Yeah. You see, first asserted by Herbert Illig in 1991. It hypothesizes a conspiracy by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III and Pope Sylvester to fabricate the Anno Domini dating system retroactively in order to place them at the special year of AD 1000 and to rewrite history, to legitimize Otto's claim to the Holy Roman Empire. Illig believed that this was achieved through the alteration, misrepresentation and forgery of documentary and physical evidence. Now, according to this scenario, the entire Carolingian period, the Carolingian also derived from the Merovingians and before them the Franks, including the figure of Charlemagne, is a fabrication, Illig says, with a phantom time of 297 years, added to the early Middle Ages. Yeah. So you see, Mr. Illig seems to be the German Alan Wilson, as you will. Yes. Now, the thing is, look, this is Mr. Illig, and normally I wanted to show you the 15-minute video where he talks about the date of Troy. But unfortunately, YouTube hasn't added English subtitles, so we can't watch it. Yeah, but I made some. These are transcript excerpts from his YouTube transcript.
Okay.
I translated them in English, so I think it takes much too long time now to read it. Maybe
just pause for a moment, please, Mona. Have you got to get to the end of the presentation because we're approaching?
I think 12 files, 10 or 12 files, then it's finished.
Okay, because it's going to be too long for a history.
I'm going to hurry now, so I'm not going to read the next 1, 2, 3, 4 files from excerpts of the transcript, but he says nearly the same like Alan Wilson, in the video. Mm-hmm. So now we come back to Alan Wilson, one of his files, and the key factor is, now we are on 49 yet in files. One of the key factor is that historians have mistaken one king for several separate and different kings. This is what happened. It has caused massive confusion with the multiple identities being seen as numbers of kings have had to be fitted into the confused centuries and decades. This was exactly what happened in the 19th century when discoverers and explorers hastily patched together what they imagined was the ancient historical pattern. Sadly, they left a legacy of muddle. I copied all of Alan's files. Next file. The Trojan War was a real event, and it took place around 650 BC, says Alan. The course was over the right to the throne of Egypt and trade routes to Europe and Asia. Here you see. The major conflict here was between the Hittite Confederacy and the Assyrian Empire, and Agamemnon, in his alter ego guise of King Necho I, Ramesses I of Sais in Egypt. It depended upon the survival of Assyria for his own survival in Egypt. Next file. Greek mathematical calculations. Alan says there was no great debate and no scholarly examination, and the matter was generally resolved in favor of the Greeks by virtue of the immense prestige which the Lyceum of Athens enjoyed. This university institution had been founded around 400 BC, and it was considered unthinkable that the Greek scholars of Athens could be so wrong. Institutional reputation won the day, as it still does, and Virgil was considered to be a poet who got the history wrong. Alan says the problems caused by Greek mathematical calculations, hundreds of books and dozens of films and television documentaries written in the 20th century all confidently proclaim that the Trojan War took place around 1200 BC. None of these publications ever attempt to demonstrate any proof whatsoever which might in any way validate this strange dating. None of these publications ever offer any corroborative evidence of this dating for the Trojan War from any other contemporary ancient history. Yet the archaeologists proceed with this more than dubious chronology of around 1200 BC as if it were proven and unchangeable fact. Nothing could be further from the truth. Next file. Basically, says Alan, we are showing that the Trojan War was a real event and that it took place around 650 50 BC, the cause was over the right to the throne of Egypt, and Agamemnon was able to persuade the Greek states to aid him in breaking the Phoenician hold on trade routes to Europe and the Black Sea states and the hinterland. Troy controlled the major trade routes between Europe and Asia, and this was sufficient in an incentive for the Greeks to aid in its destruction. Trade meant wealth and prosperity. It meant opportunity to migrate and found new cities and states for the overcrowded poor of Greek cities and states. Next file. Are we really to believe? Yeah, this is again about King Mopsos and Italy, Kyme, I think. And now we come to the file, the Hyksos, Hyksos, who built the pyramids. They actually built the pyramids, says Ellen. One of the great mysteries of the study of Egyptian history must be why there's so little effort being made to identify the foreign Hyksos kings who dominated the country for several centuries. We have shown how these great rulers were multiple named, having names for each part of their empire. They had Kassite names, Hittite names, Babylonian names, and Egyptian names. And later the Greeks gave them further confused names, whilst other nations like the Hebrews also knew them. The Kassite Agum was later Manetho's Apokis, and the Jews knew him as Agag. Yeah, and so on. And the next file, now we are almost end. This is the Hyksos built the pyramids. Ellen, in his files here, he makes a comparison with Egyptian name, Hyksos name, and the relationship. For example, dynasty of Snofru, Egyptian name. His Hyksos or Hittite name was Salatis, and the next Cheops, Egyptian names, Cheops, who built the Cheops pyramid, was in fact the Hyksos king Agum, one the great Apopis, and so on. You see the parallels. And the next file. Now, again from Ellen's book, the importance of this revelation will emerge as the story unfolds, and a great deal is well known about the dealings of the Assyrian emperors in Egypt, and particularly concerning Esarhaddon and his son Ashurbanipal. Ellen Wilson-Baron Blackett had already identified the hieroglyphic names of the pharaoh Horemheb as reading Esrones and Atrois, and those of the pharaoh Akhere as reading Ashurbanipal, and it was immediately clear that the misidentified Paneshi stele is inevitably an important historical document. It demonstrates unavoidably that there are duplications present in the general scenario of ancient Egyptian history, and that whole dynasties are duplicated and replicated into areas at least 600 years apart. This sentence is the most meaningful now. This means, says Ellen, effectively that the 19th dynasty and the 26th dynasty are one and the same under alter ego names. It also begins to unravel a historical problem and dilemma which has served to distort the whole of ancient history throughout the entire Near East and the Mediterranean. Now, so Necho 1 was Ramesses.
Yeah, first.
Samtek 1 was Seti I, for example. And the Trojan names were Agamemnon, and the Greek names were Agamemnon and Menelaus, who besieged Troy around 650 BC. Now, and the next file. Now we are at the end, Paul, And this is my conclusion for you all. The Trojan War and Egyptian history of the pyramid builders are directly related. They cannot be separated from each other and viewed historically as separate events. Anyone seriously interested in understanding the connections must read Wilson and Blackett's books. There is no way around it. The best evidence supporting Wilson and Blackett's dating of the Trojan War of 650 BC, in my opinion, is the evidence of incorrect mathematical calculations of later Greek historians, which led to many identities being confused with a multitude of different kings. Certainly, the 19th century also played a role where these incorrect results were pieced together again. Homer, Immanuel Velikovsky, Cataclysm on Mount Terra, Volcano Earth, Flavius Josephus, and Dr. Heribert Illig support the date of 600 or 650 BC plus Meno. Whole dynasties were duplicated and replicated, copied into eras at least 600 years apart. In my opinion, Herodotus completely misunderstood where the underworld or the misty region was located at in connection with the Cimmerians. It is not north of the Black Sea, in my opinion, but maybe in Alan's opinion too, because he talks about it in his books and files, but in Italy, where the Temple of Apollo is located and the entire entrance to hell, the underworld, the cave. If the Cimmerians had gone north of the Black Sea, they would be classified among the Scythian steppe peoples. In my opinion, this is not the case with the Trojan refugees. Correct? Cimmerians, Kimri, or with C or with K, Kimri, or the Etruscans. Ellen speaks too of the Etruscans, the Etruscans. Now, we're at the end, Paul, and I mean, you had a final question for me too. You asked me, what do I think that Wilson and Blackett's work will ever be entertained by Orthodox historians, and what is the legacy? So my answer is relatively simple and clear. In my opinion, nothing will change. And it will never happen as long as the media, the Vatican, governments, universities, and aristocratic families are stuffed with the wrong people who don't want to change anything concerning thwarted, what a word, history.
Thwarted, yeah. Well done.
Thwarted history, yeah. Perhaps there are also books that have long been gathering dust in the Vatican library, just waiting to be found, dusted off, read, and made accessible to the general public. Wilson Blackett's legacy is their already published books of exceptional value, and also their unpublished work, which is gradually being prepared for publication by friends of the online bookshop KingArthur.com. It is up to all of us to spread their valuable work to others. Okay, that was it.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. That was very lengthy and so much information to take in.
Yeah, very much.
What I might do is I might split the presentation into two parts, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's as one big presentation, it's too long for us to TV episode. But that was fantastic. Right. I feel like I've learned.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I
hope it was not too boring.
No, not at all. It was fascinating. Yeah. You've given me lots of names, places, and events to look into, and I will do in the near future. I didn't want to interrupt you too much because you were doing a very good job, and you're speaking in a foreign tongue, or foreign language. You did extremely well. So I didn't want to interrupt you too much. So that was fantastic, brilliant stuff. And I've got so much good stuff now to put onto my channel. So I'm very, very grateful to you. And hopefully one day we can do it again at some point, or do something different on KingArthur.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you for your time, Mona.
Thank you too for having me. Okay, goodbye.
Yes, bye. See you later.
Yes, bye.
Blimey, told you it was long, but it was worth it. It was brilliant. So thank you so much, Mona, for that. And I do hope that we can speak again very soon. Lots more to talk about. Thank you to those that made it to the end. It's been a long one. But yeah, great stuff from Mona. So look out for the next episode of the History CV of Britain. It might be on next week. We'll see what happens. I'll either be doing an episode of the CV or boogieing away at the Storytelling Festival in Oxford. So we'll have to see what happens. Okay, thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe. I might be over 700 subscribers by now, which would be a fantastic achievement. So cheers, thanks for watching, and see you soon.